They said it was just for a few nights, said they'd be back after dinner. Told me to rest up, enjoy the quiet, we'll come get you in the morning, Ma. But Christmas came, and Christmas went, and I sat in that small room by the window, watching snow fall like it was counting my tears. Not a call, not a knock. Just nurses walking past with trays and tired smiles. I kept glancing at the clock, thinking maybe they were just late. Maybe the roads were bad. Maybe they forgot the address. But deep down, I knew. I wasn't part of the celebration anymore. I was the problem they'd solved for the holiday. And when the nurse came in with a little gift, a candle wrapped in red paper, I smiled, but not for the gift. That night, I unwrapped something else. I unwrapped the truth. The truth about who shows up when you have nothing left to give. Who remembers you when you can't cook or clean or babysit no more. That's the kind of Christmas I had. And before I tell you how it all changed, let me take you back to how it all began. My name is Vivian. I'm 79 years old. I've lived a long, loud life, even if lately it's been quiet. I raised 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I packed lunches, wiped tears, stayed up through fevers and first heartbreaks. I buried one husband, a man who wasn't perfect, but who knew how to show up. And after everything I've seen, everything I've survived, I still believe in kindness. Yes, I do. I was raised in a time when you didn't have much, but you shared what you had. When folks didn't just tell you they loved you, they showed it with their hands, their time, their presence. I used to believe family was forever. That no matter what, blood would circle back to you, especially on holidays. But life taught me something else. It taught me that love can wear thin when it's no longer convenient, that people who used to run into your arms can learn to walk right past your pain. Now before I take you deeper into this story, I want to know something. Where are you watching from right now? Are you watching from a place that feels warm? Or are you sitting there wondering why you always give more than you get? If you've ever had a holiday that made you feel invisible, if you've ever sat at a table and felt like the ghost in your own family, drop a comment below. Don't be shy. Tell me your truth. Or if you've got a story you've been holding close, there's an email in the description. Write me. I read every single one. You ain't alone. Not now. Not while I still have a voice to speak for the ones who've been silenced. You know, there was a time when Christmas meant something real in my house. Not just decorations and matching pajamas for the camera, but warmth, presence, laughter that echoed down the hallway and stayed in your chest days after the tree came down. I used to wake up before the sun, slide my feet into old house slippers, and start cooking before the kids even stirred. The smell of cinnamon, cloves, and roast beef would fill every room by noon. I'd light the little red candles on the table, even if they were lopsided from years of storage. Didn't matter. It was love. I knitted each one of their stockings with their names stitched in gold thread. Tommy, Marcus, and Alana. I'd fill them with small things, gum, warm socks, a little cash if I had it. Nothing fancy, but they'd smile like it was the world. We weren't rich, not by any stretch. There were Christmases when we had to choose between heat and ham, but we had each other, and we made it enough. I'd hold the grandbabies while their mama got a nap. I'd stay on the phone when the boys called after breakups or bad days. Every gift I gave, every plate I served, it came from a place of wanting to, not having to. That's how I was raised, to pour love into folks, even when your own cup felt low, to answer the door even when your knees ached, to give without keeping score. And I didn't mind one bit. I gave all I had, with nothing but a grateful heart. Because back then I believed that kind of love would circle back to me when I needed it most. But what I didn't know was that love can fade in people who don't remember how it got there in the first place. It didn't happen all at once. No big blow-up, no argument. The silence came soft, like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice it at first, but one day you wake up and the ride don't feel right anymore. First, the visits got shorter. They used to stay the whole weekend. Then it was just a few hours. Then, just a quick drop-off on the porch. I told myself they were busy. Life moves fast, right? Kids got schedules, jobs. I made excuses for them the way I used to make excuses for late report cards, softly, so no one else would judge. The phone rang, less and less. I'd sit by the window in the afternoons, just waiting on that ringtone I used to hear 3 times a day. I'd check to make sure the volume was up. I even changed the batteries in the cordless, thinking maybe it was broken. It wasn't. Then the words started changing. She's tired. She can't keep up. Maybe we should just do a smaller holiday this year. My daughter-in-law whispered once, just loud enough for me to hear. She's too much work around the holidays. That one stayed with me. Too much work. Like raising them wasn't work. Like losing sleep to stitch Halloween costumes and cook 3 meals a day was easy. Still, I tried not to take it personal. I told myself, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe they need some space. Maybe this is just a phase. That little bit of hope, it hung on. I made a pot of stew, just in case they dropped by. Set out the guest towels. Wrapped the gifts with ribbon, and love, and quiet prayers. Because I still believed they'd come. That family always circles back. But what I was starting to learn is that sometimes the people you love the loudest begin to treat you like background noise. And even then, I held on. Because that's what mothers do. Even when the door starts closing, we leave a light on just in case they come back home. It was the day before Christmas Eve, December 23rd. The tree was already lit, and I had just finished folding the sweaters I bought for the grandkids. I was sitting in my favorite chair, thinking how good it would feel to hear little feet running through the house and laughter bouncing off the walls again. That's when my son came in. He sat down across from me, not close like he used to when he wanted to talk about something real. Just far enough to feel like business. He cleared his throat and said, "Ma, the house is going to be real full this year. And with the grandkids and everything, we thought maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere quiet. Just for a few days." I blinked, didn't know how to answer at first. Then he smiled, but not the smile I raised. This one was practiced. Polite, like he'd already rehearsed it in the mirror. I said, "But I already made their gifts. I got the pies in the freezer." I thought I was helping. He didn't look me in the eye. Said it would be good for me to get some rest. That I deserved a break. I wanted to believe him. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't about my comfort. This was about convenience. About making room for everybody else by moving me out the way. A few minutes later, my daughter-in-law walked in with my suitcase. It was already packed, my green coat, my Sunday dress, all folded up without asking me. They loaded it into the car like they were taking out the trash. No hugs. No, "We'll miss you, Mama." Just a quick kiss on the cheek, and "We'll be back in a couple days, okay?" I looked back at the house as they pulled away. The lights in the window were blinking, like nothing had changed. But everything had. I didn't say a word. Just held my purse tight on my lap and stared out the window. Trying not to let the tears fall. Trying not to feel like I'd just been uninvited from my own family. When we pulled up to the nursing home, everything felt too quiet. The kind of quiet that don't feel peaceful, just empty. The lobby was lit up with blinking lights and a fake tree in the corner, but it didn't feel like Christmas. Not the kind I remembered. The receptionist looked up, confused, like she'd seen this scene before, families dropping off their elders like luggage. She smiled, but her eyes told the truth. They were used to this. I wasn't. My son gave a quick wave, said, "Just for the weekend, Ma. We'll be back first thing Christmas morning. Rest up, okay?" Then they were gone. Just like that. I stood there holding my purse like it was the only thing still mine. They led me to a small room with beige walls, one tiny window, and a bed that creaked when I sat down. The kind of room made for people folks don't plan to visit long. I looked out the window that night and watched the snow start to fall. Soft and steady. The kind of snow that makes you want to sit by the fire, not alone in silence. Still, I held on to hope. Told myself, they'll come. They always do. I even laid out my red sweater on the edge of the bed, brushed my hair, put on a little powder, just in case someone wanted to take a picture. Christmas morning came. The sun peeked through, glaring off the snow. No knock, no call, not even a message. The nurse brought in a small gift, a pair of warm socks wrapped in tissue paper. She said "Merry Christmas" and touched my hand real soft. I smiled at her, but inside, something broke. I looked back out that window, watched the snow fall steady, and it hit me like cold wind to the chest. I hadn't been dropped off for rest. I'd been dropped off like a gift they never planned to pick back up. Wrapped in promises. Left behind. I sat in that little room with the socks still in my lap. The snow kept falling. The The clock on the wall ticked like it was reminding me of every minute I spent waiting. And I just sat there, quiet, still. I didn't cry at first, not because I wasn't hurt, but because the kind of hurt I felt didn't need tears. It was deep, heavy, like carrying a bag of memories that no one wanted anymore. I looked at the door, still closed, and I started asking myself things I never thought I would. Was I too much? Was I in the way? Had I become a chore instead of a mother? I remembered when they were babies, tiny, helpless, full of need. And I was there for every scrape, every tear, every bedtime story. I rocked them to sleep when they were scared of thunder. I stayed up late sewing Halloween costumes from scraps because we didn't have money for store-bought ones. I sold my wedding ring, my last memory of their daddy, just to make sure my oldest had money for college books. None of it felt like sacrifice back then. It felt like love. But now I sat in this room, wondering if they remembered any of it, or if I had simply outlived my usefulness. It's a cold thing, to feel like your worth has an expiration date. Like once your hands stop working and your knees start hurting, people stop seeing you as needed. Just extra. I looked around at the quiet walls and asked myself, is this what happens when you give your all? Do you get left behind when they think you've got nothing left to give? I didn't want to believe it, but in that moment, part of me did. That afternoon, I was still sitting in the same spot. Didn't feel like moving, didn't feel like talking. I was just watching the snow fall like it was telling my story in silence. Then the door creaked open soft. A young nurse walked in, maybe 20-something, with soft brown eyes and her hair pulled back in a bun. She was holding a little cup with steam rising from it. "I brought you something," she said. "Hot cocoa." And in it, a red and white candy cane hanging over the side. She handed it to me with both hands, real gentle, like I was glass. I smiled a little and said, "Thank you, sweetheart." Didn't expect much else, but she didn't leave. She sat down on the edge of the chair across from me, quiet at first. Then she said, "You remind me of my grandma. She passed last Christmas. I miss her every day." She paused, looked at me like she meant it, and asked, "Can I stay a while?" I nodded. And we just sat there, not filling the room with noise, just presence. Sometimes that's all you need. Somebody to sit with you when you're feeling forgotten. Somebody to see you without asking you to perform or smile or pretend. She didn't try to cheer me up, didn't say it's gonna be okay, or they probably meant well. She just sat, sipping cocoa from her own cup, her legs crossed at the ankle, eyes soft and steady. In that moment I felt held. Not fixed, but held. That nurse didn't take away my pain, but she didn't look away from it either. She made room for it. She made room for me. It reminded me, kindness don't always come from the people you raised. Sometimes it walks in quiet, with a warm drink and a gentle heart. And it stays, just long enough to keep you from feeling invisible. That night, while the halls were quiet and the snow kept falling, I sat up in bed and looked around the room. I had a choice. I could sit in that sadness and let it eat me from the inside out, or I could use it, shape it, turn it into something that didn't hurt to carry. I didn't plan no revenge. I wasn't thinking about yelling or slamming doors or giving speeches that would make 'em feel bad. That ain't my way. No, that night, I planned peace. I reached under the bed and pulled out the bag I brought. Inside were the gifts I'd made for my family. Knitted scarves, baked cookies wrapped in ribbon, handmade photo frames with their baby pictures inside. Each one full of love. Love that didn't have a place to go anymore. So the next morning I asked the nurse to help me find the address of the local children's shelter. And we boxed it all up. Every ribbon, every cookie, every stitch, packed with care, like they still mattered. Because they did. Just not to the people I thought. We dropped the box off that afternoon. No big moment, no cameras, just a woman at the front desk with tired eyes who whispered, "Thank you. They'll be so happy." Then I went back to my room and pulled out my checkbook. I sat there, thinking about all the folks like me, mamas and grandmas sitting in rooms they never asked to be in. Hearts full of stories with no one left to tell them to. I searched for charities that help forgotten elders, ones that visit the lonely, ones that bring warm meals and real conversation, and I wrote a check. Not because I had a lot, but because I knew what it meant to feel left behind. And I swore to myself, they may have forgotten me, but I won't forget others like me. That was the moment I took my power back. Not by fighting, but by giving. By pouring into people who needed it, just like I did. And somehow in all that giving I felt less empty, a little more whole. It wasn't until 3 days after Christmas that my phone finally rang. I looked at the screen. It was my son. The same one who smiled that strange smile when he dropped me off. The same one who promised, "We'll be back first thing Christmas morning." I let it ring twice before I picked up. Not because I was angry, but because I was calm, still. And when you've sat alone long enough, you learn how to hear people even before they speak. His voice came through all cheerful, like nothing had happened. "Hey Ma, sorry about the delay. Things just got hectic, you know how the holidays get." I didn't respond right away. I took a breath, looked out the window one more time at the snow that was finally starting to melt, and said real gentle, "I found peace where I was left. I'm all right now. I don't need a ride back." He went quiet. Didn't know what to say. Maybe he thought I'd be crying. Maybe he expected me to beg. But I didn't. I'd already cried those tears in silence. I'd already looked at that closed door and made peace with it. He mumbled something about coming by later in the week. I said, "Take your time." And we hung up. I sat there in the quiet again, but this time it didn't feel heavy. It felt clean, like I'd finally swept out a part of my heart that had been waiting too long for people who only came around when it suited them. See, forgiveness don't always mean things go back to how they were. Sometimes it just means you stop carrying the weight. I forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I didn't do it to fix the past. I did it to free my future. That was the moment I stopped waiting for folks to remember me, and started remembering myself. After the calls stopped and the snow melted, I stopped looking out the window. Not because I gave up, but because I started looking in a different direction, forward. I woke up one morning, made my bed slow and careful, and said to myself, if I'm still here, then I'm still useful. That day, I walked down to the rec room with my shoulders a little straighter. Asked the staff if they needed help with the craft hour. They looked surprised, said, "We'd love that, Miss Vivian." And just like that, I became the one teaching. Folks how to knit little scarves and string popcorn on thread like I used to with my grandbabies. I started reading bedtime stories to the other ladies down the hall, the ones who didn't have visitors either. I'd pull up a chair, open up a book, and let my voice fill the room. Some of them would fall asleep halfway through. Others just smiled and said, "You sound like my mama used to." The nurses started sitting with me at lunch. We'd laugh about old recipes and TV shows I'd never heard of. They'd ask for advice about love, about money, about life, and I gave what I could the same way I always had, with heart. I started feeling useful again, not because I was doing big things, but because I was still giving, still pouring, still showing up. I didn't feel like the extra chair at the table anymore. I felt like the table, steady, needed, rooted. No, it wasn't the life I imagined, but it became a life I could smile through. Because they may have left me behind, but I moved forward, step by step, word by word, cup of cocoa by cup of cocoa. I moved forward. You can give your whole life to people, raise them, feed them, carry them through sickness and sorrow, through broke days and hard nights, and still end up sitting outside the very door you helped build. I used to think that love meant giving until you had nothing left. But I learned something, sitting hot by that window, watching the snow fall alone. Your worth ain't measured by how loud they clap for you, or how often they come around when the food's hot and the gifts are wrapped. No, your worth is measured by your presence. By how you hold your own hand when nobody else will. By how you light your own candle when the room goes dark. Christmas used to mean full tables and laughter. Now I know. Christmas isn't about who you sit with, it's about what you carry inside. It's about peace you make with yourself, the warmth you share with strangers, the joy you choose, even when the people you love most forget to choose you. I learned that, sometimes, love has to start with yourself. Even on a day that was supposed to be for everybody else, even when they leave you, even when it hurts. And I remember now, I'm not here just to be remembered. I'm here to remind others. We still matter. We still shine. We still got stories to tell. So if you've ever been left behind by your own, your kids, your kin, your spouse, your so-called friends, hear me when I say this plain. You are not forgotten. Not by me. Not by the thousands watching this. Not by the universe that still sees your heart beating. You're not invisible. You're just in a season where your shine has to come from the inside out. Tell me your story in the comments. I'm listening. I read 'em all. If you've ever sat alone on a holiday or cried behind a smile, drop your truth below. If this touched a part of you no one's seen in a while, click that like button. Let it be a sign that you're still here, still strong, still moving. And if you want more stories like this, more truth, wrapped in love, subscribe, so we can keep telling the stories most folks are too scared to say out loud. They thought I'd sit quiet in that room, that I'd fade like an old photo no one frames anymore. But I found a way to stand tall, even from a wheelchair, even from a place they tried to forget me in, and you can too. Whatever they left you in, you can rise from it. Thank you for watching. See you next time. More love from Granny, always.